So we're in the first week of January and I woke up to a power cut today, which was pretty fun. I quite like power cuts because they tend to just, you know, make you realise that actually there is a world out there beyond electricity, and suddenly everything just goes really quiet and peaceful, and that's nice. But obviously there's a downside to it. Suddenly it kind of shocks you into a situation where you're thinking, oh, am I prepared for this? You know, because usually you get a power cut and it's like half an hour or something, but today it's been really, really windy, like today and yesterday. It's actually very windy, but you can't really see it very well because all of these trees are quite kind of big, so, and solid. They're not like, I remember in the tropics when I lived on Magnetic Island, you had the palm trees, and they all obviously got the palms and they just sway like crazy, and then you can see the wind, but these trees you can't really see it so much. You see it in there. Leaves. Wow, can you hear that? That's pretty windy. Pretty crazy. Look at that tree over there. Haven't seen any falling down yet. And the last, well, basically like the whole day so far has been, we've had a power cut. So it's been quite interesting, really, like a bit of a wake-up call, thinking, well, you know, if it's not just for half an hour, what if it's for a day, what if it's for 2 days, what if it's for a week, what if it's for much longer than that, you know? So been kind of brainstorming really, and writing a checklist of things to do that, you know, I'm assuming that because it's windy it's hopefully going to be back up and running, but then it's one of those things where you just can't really assume anything. You can't take anything for granted, and I think that's part of the problem. We've got used to having electricity and got used to having, you know, turning on a light at our beck and call, or turning on the heating, turning on the hot water. What if all of that is taken away? What do we do then? Are you prepared for it? I've been thinking about it. I guess I've been a little bit hesitant because every time I've tried raising the issue with friends or family or people, I tend to get sort of laughed at, and, you know, say, oh, that will never happen, don't be ridiculous, you know, what is it, what are you trying to prepare for, some sort of apocalypse or something? And today, with today's power cuts, just made me realise actually it is important to prepare, because, you know, it's not about preparing for some massive, great big catastrophe such as, you know, a natural disaster or some huge sort of social or economic upheaval, but all of those things, especially as we're now in 2012, all of these things are very make it a lot more likely that there could be, you know, power shortages, and things that we take for granted could be suddenly appear more scarce. What if, you know, to not take anything for granted, to not assume that just because you've had power and hot water and heating and food and all these things doesn't mean that you're going to keep having them. They could be taken away you know, within a split second. So this morning, you know, it was a question of, well, how do I have a bath, or how do I? So this morning, when it came to having a shower, I suddenly realised I couldn't have a shower because the shower mechanism pressure is controlled by the electricity. So we have no electricity, so I had to have a bath instead. But then we didn't have much hot water in the tank, So then I had to boil some hot water on our stove, on our wood-burning stove. And luckily, we have that as our main source of heating. However, not many people, it's more of quite a countryside thing, I think, to have, because we live in quite a rural area, but a lot of people in the city don't have wood-burning stoves, and even a lot of people in towns, and just, I'd say, you know, it's not a very common thing to have a wood-burning stove.
This amazing piece of kit, which looks like it belongs in a sort of museum or something, but it's works perfectly well. You can boil quite a lot of water in that, so that's quite good if you want to make hot water for a bath, or for a cup of tea. Very important. Essential survival item for the British person is a cup of tea. And yeah, so this is the survival, the heart of our survival, I suppose. You got cooking mechanism, heating mechanism, and for hot water, and just need to keep finding wood, really, and try and keep it going. Luckily, we don't really have any electric heaters in the house anyway, so we tend to rely on this for our sole source of heat. So that's not really a massive issue. I'm kind of used to having that, just trying to make the house well insulated, which is difficult because it's a 400-year-old house. As you can tell, that's the chimney. Christmas cards, coffee, fire, and this is how Fudge keeps warm. Fudge is grateful for the wood-burning stove, water, coffee, heat. What more could a dog ask for, hey Fudge?
But they are, you know, a lifesaver when you have a power cut, because as we've found, you can use it to cook, to heat, to boil hot water, and so it's definitely been really useful. So I managed to have a bath, which was nice. So, and wash my hair, which is why it's kind of all in a bit of a crazy wet state at the moment. So really just sort of thinking, getting candles ready for, it's going to start getting dark soon. And we've been thinking, well, what food do we have in the fridge that, what food do we have that we could cook on the stove that's not going to take too long, and things like that. So obviously, I mean, when the power goes out, your immediate thought is, how long is this going to last? This is the longest power cut we've had in a long time. It doesn't really surprise me in a way because, to be honest, the whole infrastructure of this country is falling apart. So I'm not really that surprised that having a bit of a gale suddenly means that everything becomes cut and we lose all power. I think the other thing is as well, you know, we've become so accustomed to spending our evenings watching TV and or sitting on our computers, but suddenly if that's all taken away from you and you have no power, well, family's going to have to learn to actually talk to each other and to maybe play board games. And so I think I'm going to invest in some Scrabble and some Monopoly and a few games. And sounds really corny, but in that way I think that it's good. It sort of forces people to suddenly think outside the box and communicate and stop living in this little bubble of you know, taking everything for granted and assuming that, you know, that your heating and lighting and hot water and everything is just going to be there forever. Because I think people might laugh at me talking about this and saying that I want to prepare for for the possibility of losing power on a more long-term basis. Things like growing your own food as well, and thinking of ways to store your own food. Just sort of common sense, really, and people laugh at me for it. But at the end of the day, I think it's more ridiculous to think that there's not going to be any major change to the current status quo. To think that the next 50 years is just going to go by and that nothing's going to affect our standard of living, that we're not going to have any that we're not going to experience any hardship or upheaval or loss of power or loss of infrastructure, or whether it's through natural disasters or war or economic upheaval or social unrest or whatever it is. I think particularly looking at the current state of the world, I think it's absolutely inevitable that at some point there's going to be we're going to be facing challenges to our lifestyle and to our what we've got used to. So basically, I'd just say it's good to prepare and not to take anything for granted. I think I'd really like. There's a lot that I'd like to do. I'm kind of a bit. I'm a little bit. Things like having a generator, having kind of, I don't know. There's so many things that I'd like to do or to get in order to prepare, but then I'm sort of limited in terms of finance because my job's only part-time, and so I don't earn very much money, so I don't really have much of an opportunity to spend much money on preparing, bulk buying like food or anything like that. I think it's more just a matter at the moment of preparing for like immediate emergencies.
A lot of candles. Everyone thought I was totally crazy when I went for like hundreds and hundreds of candles, but I think that when it starts to get dark in a few hours that they will be very useful. We've also had a little bit of flooding just outside my house, so that's always fun trying to drive through that. And then, as you can see, we've got a river right here, and that's often one of the priorities when people talk about survival preparation. Where's your nearest water supply? But the thing to remember is it actually drinkable water? And if power breaks down, and if electricity isn't working for a day or a few days or a few weeks, things like sewage systems are going to actually stop working.
Cooking by candlelight. So it's been about 12 hours since we had the power cut, and we still haven't got any power. So now I'm trying to cook dinner, which is going to be an interesting experience. What we're going to do is try and put a frying pan on the wood-burning stove. I don't know if it'll get hot enough, but we're going to attempt to cook some sort of thing of garlic and onions and tomatoes and sausages and beans, all by candlelight. Cooking by candlelight. Step 1 is peel an onion. There's my garlic, and yes, I do like garlic. It keeps the vampires at bay. Sausages from free-range pigs. Sausages with chili. Now, I'm sure you'll be intrigued to know that I actually did a sausage making course some time ago.
It was quite good fun. Well, it's almost midnight now, and finally some sort of power grid lorry or vehicle or engine or whatever you call them has turned up, and they seem to be trying to look for the source of the problem. Because it might be a wire that's fallen down, like a tree might be a tree that's fallen onto a power cable, and it would appear that this is why we have no power. Tree has fallen onto the line, and parts of the line are now there, which isn't good. Hopefully they will fix it, because it's now been 24 hours without any power, and it would be nice to be able to just kind of, you know, make some breakfast or things like that, have a shower. It's going to be a bit of an effort trying to have a bath through the same method as yesterday, but I think I'll wait and hopefully they'll come and fix it. I think this is a job for someone who is not afraid of heights.
Why are they doing it? Must be that tree's on pushing on that one beyond the other side of the river.
Oh, maybe. No.
They get it stuck.
That looks like it's going to fall on the power cable.
No, it's cutting the wedge out this side. It should fall this way.
Oh.
That's why you cut the wedge out. There you go.
Oh.
In the river. I've never seen that river, that water ever come close to that depth.
Really?
Yeah. Then we've got the marks on it.